Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Good for the Soul, episode number 4. In this episode, I sat down with Nate Orchard. If you're listening to this, you probably know who he is, right? We're all Jiu-Jitsu fanatics. Guys, Nate's the man. So to start off, he's the owner of 10th Planet Seattle over in Bellevue, Washington. High-level competitor, competed in the EBIs, the trials, you know, that whole no-gi circuit, right? So he's also done the combat jiu-jitsu. Some really cool things. And I really enjoyed this conversation I had with him. He's a very insightful individual. It was awesome. His energy is amazing. Yeah, so it was really cool. I think one of the most impressive things about me from his story that I've heard about Nate, and then being able to talk to him as well, was he's fully self-taught. I mean, yeah, there's things here and there where, you know, he had gotten instruction over the years, but the way he described it and how he came to be the high-level competitor and jiu-jitsu grappler that he is, from having taught himself, I mean, it's a very interesting mindset, and it was really cool. And I think it's super inspiring for me to be like, wow. Okay, if you learn how to get to that level, maybe I can learn some things along the way as well. So that was really cool. Let's talk about the gym, because again, I want you guys to listen to this. Like, if you're in the area, go check it out. 10th Planet is a very welcoming environment. Everyone there is super cool, right? You walk in, huge open space, and they have the raised floor, which I'm a huge fan of. So when you're doing throws and takedowns, you know, you have plenty of cushioning, great mats. I think they're the zebra mats. Good texture, right? The non-slip stuff, so that's gonna be nice on the feet, right? As well as when you're grappling, you have plenty of traction. Let's see, yeah, great gym, guys. I like to describe it like, hey, you can have black belts, and then you can have black belt instructors, right? And sometimes those don't mesh and match, because coaching is its own skill, right? Nate is a black belt competitor, jiu-jitsu practitioner, and he is a black belt instructor. I mean, he took the room and taught takedowns to the grappling technique for every level. I mean, if it was day one jiu-jitsu or you've been on the mat 10+ years, you would have gotten something great out of that session. So I was super impressed. I mean, that was you don't see it all the time like that, which was really cool. So that was a really cool experience to see how well an instructor, excuse me, can do that in itself, right? And he cared. He's walking around checking on people, being very observant of the mat. Yeah, I really enjoyed taking this class from him and being around his presence on the mat. Yeah, if you're in that gym, go check it out. My role with Nate, so I had rolled with him probably 3 years prior, when he had visited Seattle with a mutual friend over at Ivan's. And it obviously twisted me up pretty good back then, but I mean, man, feeling that level of grappling was an awesome experience. And the way he moves is transitioning and always one step ahead of you in that OODA loop, right? Just continuing, attacking, and all different submissions, right? So that was a really cool experience. Opened my mind to, hey, what grappling can be. So that was super fun. So if you're in that Bellevue, Seattle area, make sure you go check it out. 10th Planet Seattle in Bellevue. Guys, before we get to the interview, again, if you want to support yourself with getting some awesome products and support me at the same time, go to jockofuel.com. They got the supplements, the protein shakes, all that cool stuff. You're going to get 10% off at closeout using the code GOODFORTHESOUL. And on the gi and rash guard and training and clothes side, originusa.com, you're going to get another 10% off putting in the code GOODFORTHESOUL at checkout. So support yourself by getting some awesome products, guys. And without further ado, check out this episode with Nate Orchard. Cool, man. Well, one, I appreciate you having me out, dude, and let me sit down with you. That was a amazing technique today. It's I was telling Chaz, the fun things about jiu-jitsu were those moments when you see something different. And I had like 7 light bulb moments. Like, how in 10 years of jiu-jitsu has someone not shown me this one little thing? And it was 7 times. So I was just grinning ear to ear today, man. So
thank you. Well, you were ready for the lessons.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, man. So we're just talking good for the soul today. Yeah. You know, we love jiu-jitsu. We know it's good for the soul. And man, I just want to know, when did you find jiu-jitsu was good for your soul? Like, was there a specific moment? What was your story and how you discovered that?
There was absolutely a specific moment. It was, man, it was probably back in 2009, 2010. Granted, by then I already had 21 MMA fights. You know, I'd been a wrestler and a fighter, blah, blah, blah. But you know, I've had a lot of concussions, and so I was trying to like step back from MMA a little bit. And at the time in my life, man, I was like really, I think, depressed and paranoid, you know, of everything that could go wrong in life, you know. And so one day I realized that like I wasn't agitated, paranoid, depressed while I was doing jiu-jitsu. I was just like, oh, whenever I do jiu-jitsu, I feel really good. So every time I started realizing that I was feeling like shit, I would go train. And you know, and after a while, it just kind of reprogrammed my mind to, you know, I just stopped thinking those negative thoughts because I spent so much time thinking about jiu-jitsu. I didn't have time for negative thoughts. And man, it just kind of like settled in. I remember realizing, I set like a trigger for myself to where the first part is I had to realize that I was feeling bad. And then I had a pre-programmed good thought. Right, so I'm like, oh, I'm feeling bad. Like I'd be surfing. I'm like, a shark's gonna eat me, and I would just instantly, okay, realize I had a bad thought, and then imagine myself getting my hand raised on the mat. Or I'd be driving my car and be afraid I'm gonna get in a wreck. Hand raised on the mat. Like my girlfriend's gonna dump me. Hand raised on, you know, no matter what. It was just like boom, and that was part of like again reprogramming my mind to not be depressed.
Well, you said something very interesting that I'm curious about. Is you said prior you were wrestling, boxing. You had 21 fights already. How was that transition to just straight jiu-jitsu, and why was it had you not recognized that prior when you were already in that world of fighting?
Well, I mean, okay, so I started my first 10 MMA fights. I was a fully self-trained dude out of my garage. One of those guys. You know, my first fight, I was actually 16. It was in 2004. And so I was just a kid that like wanted to fight. I fought, I got armbarred. That was actually when I like realized the value of jiu-jitsu. And being a wrestler was kind of more natural to me. Well, then I actually...
Wait, what age did you get armbarred at? So someone else knew jiu-jitsu?
I was fighting this 21-year-old dude, you know, who was a college wrestler, and I was a 16-year-old kid. It was like, it was my sophomore homecoming night. And so I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go fight. I go fight. I thought I was gonna have to like pay an entry fee. No, they paid me $300 cash, and it blew my mind. I was like, I'm getting paid to fight. You know? I get beat up. The fight's on YouTube actually somewhere. It's pretty wild.
Do you know what year this was off the top of your head?
This was 2004. November of 2004. So
pre-social media, pre-big internet.
No YouTube, no
So
Facebook.
If this guy knew an armbar, he was in the trenches of jiu-jitsu.
He somehow knew, you know, I don't know. He was a cop, you know, so maybe he learned something there. You know, but so where was I? Oh, okay, so yeah, I had all the fights. I had 10 fights. I got outstruck finally on my 10th fight because I'd been submitting people. Like just from like, oh, no, that's what I was gonna say. When I was 17, I broke my leg playing high school football. And so for that 6 months, it was a horrible break. My foot was 180 degrees backwards, 16 fractures, it was terrible. So for 6 months, dude, all I could do was sit there and think, you know, and watch UFC and, you know, because again, that's all there was back then, you know, to study jiu-jitsu really, especially where I lived. And I remember realizing that a triangle choke was just getting my leg on their shoulder and wrapping it up. And so it was the craziest thing, man, because, you know, I dabbled a little bit before I broke my leg, you know, 15, 16, 17. And then when I got healthy again, I'd go roll with my friends in the living room or the mat room at the high school, and I could just triangle people. And so I was like, whoa, I'm like, okay, I got it, you know? So I started just tapping fools out in MMA. And then I got outstruck, so I stepped away from grappling for a while, and I just did striking for 3-4 years straight. And then I was on an 8-fight winning streak. I got kind of out-grappled by better wrestlers. And so I was like, okay, time to step back from striking, go back to jiu-jitsu, or like not even go back to, time to start jiu-jitsu for real. You know, and so I like Googled like how to get belted in jiu-jitsu. And on the 10th Planet Forum, it popped up their criteria. So like, cool, I'm gonna go do this. You know, I had to get 15 matches of me submitting people using 10th Planet techniques / wearing 10th Planet clothing. And it took me a year to do that, got my blue belt. I actually was the first person to get my blue belt online from Eddie Bravo. I'd been posting all my matches on his forum. And he saw it. I actually hit what is now called the Dead Orchard in a match. And everyone's like, whoa, you know, Eddie goes, Orchard, you're no white belt, boom, here's your blue belt.
I think you did that to me today.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, first time in school, I gotta hit my move on him. I love it.
So I go down to HQ, and for 2 weeks I train, and he gives me these test matches. Out of 7 test matches, I submitted 5 people and had 2 stalemates. So in that 2 weeks, I then got So I go down to HQ, tap all these guys out. I get my purple belt. So I was a blue belt for 2 weeks, right? Get my purple belt. I was a purple belt for 14 months. Got my brown belt. I competed every month for 10 months, went undefeated, won Gracie Nationals against a really stacked bracket, and then I got my black belt. So it took me, you know, 2 years, almost to the exact day, of blue to black, but with all that previous experience, you know. So, and then, so my intention was to, you know, get so good at jiu-jitsu that no wrestler could out-grapple me in MMA. And then I just got lost in jiu-jitsu.
Right.
And I never went back to MMA. You know?
I love it. No, you also said something that was very interesting, and again, trying to draw people into the excitement of jiu-jitsu, because people see grappling to this day and still have no idea what's happening. It's just two people rolling on the ground, right? But you said, well, a triangle is just me putting my leg over their shoulder and locking it. It's so simple. You know what I mean? So that's a great reminder of like, hey, yeah, this complicated thing, it obviously, the years go on, there's nuance and detail, but it can be simple.
The basic shapes are all the same through all the positions, you know, and it's usually just a triangle of some sort, you know?
No, that was great. So at this stage in your life, you know, post-fighting, you're still an active competitor. What does jiu-jitsu mean to you?
Man, I actually reposted something that Robin Black said on Instagram the other day. It was to the effect of, you know, through martial arts training, like we learn about ourselves and the universe, you know? And so that really is the ultimate thing it is for me, is like always keeping in touch with who and what I am. And it's just such a great way to like gauge the rest of my life, you know? I mean, it always brings me back to center. You know, I go too far this way, I go too far that way. Jiu-jitsu, it shows you where you are. You know, it shows you if your habits are healthy or unhealthy or whatever else. It's just such a standard to live by. So, you know, it teaches me about myself and life, and it just keeps me grounded and focused. Yeah,
that's wonderful. Well, and keeping you centered, keeping you healthy, because you'll know if you're off in other ways. You said when you were 17 that you jacked your knee up pretty good. What was that recovery process like, and did you realize, I mean, super young at that time, healed no problem, but did you realize that recovery was super important then, and translating that to now? How was that transition?
Yeah, no, I didn't actually I didn't get in touch with my body as far as how to heal myself properly until I was well into being a black belt. You know, I was always the type, like I did heal perfectly from my leg. But I was always like, I would just tell my body what to do. I didn't really care what it told me, you know? And then I had a friend who actually owns this company, Chakra Coffee, Stefan Straub. He's a massage therapist and a healer. And he just taught me how to listen to my body, you know? Probably one of my biggest lessons was one of the early submission, I think it was the first ever submission underground. I got a level 3 AC separation, right? And that was July 17th, and then October 30th, so in only a few months, you know, I had a fight against Imanari. So I was training for Imanari with a totally jacked up shoulder, and I was about to fight one of my idols, you know? So that's when I like really learned how to train smart and eat healthy and not eating, you know, inflammatory things. And there was this spa that we'd go to, and there was like this waterfall in the hot tub, and I would just sit under the waterfall and just imagine like the water is just washing the pain and the injuries away, you know? So like kind of meditation and things like that, you know, like that's really what taught me, but I'm still learning.
Are you battling any injuries currently that you're kind of working through?
No, nothing really intense. I mean, there's always the little, you know, sore back or dinged elbows or whatever.
The jiu-jitsu things.
No, I'm seriously lucky when it comes to my health, you know? I also don't push myself too hard, you know? Like everyone tells us how hard you gotta work. I'm like, well, maybe you gotta work smart. You know what I mean? I can work a lot longer that way, and plus that just speaks to me. Some people are workhorses. I'm kind of not, you know? I like to work smart and easy. You know, again, we all just have our different way. No,
that's great. And I think that's super important too, because talking to people who have not tried jiu-jitsu yet, right? Trying to get people excited about jiu-jitsu, injuries is such a, maybe a stopping point for them, right? I can't get hurt because of whatever type of work you do. Doctors, sign language interpreters, whatever, someone in the trades. When someone walks through those doors for the first time, man or woman, how do you draw them into jiu-jitsu? Maybe not selling them on it, but kind of ease them through that process.
Well, I think that one thing I'm pretty good at is making jiu-jitsu kind of fun and exciting and not painful. Like the way we drill and the moves we do, I'm always emphasizing low impact and things like that. And so I can just like get people hooked on like some really fun and effective, dynamic, powerful feeling moves.
Yeah.
You know, they're easy on the body, and you know, and I'm always just telling people, I'm like, yo, guys, this isn't a sprint, this isn't a marathon, this is a death march. Like we're doing this till we die.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
so like no rush.
Yep.
You know, and the more you rush, the slower you'll go. Honestly, you know, take your time, enjoy the process. You know, there is no end of infinity.
Right.
Jiu-jitsu is infinite. So what finish line are you rushing toward, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
That's great advice. Do you ever tailor the conversation differently to man or woman, right? Because we know jiu-jitsu is mostly a male-dominated sport, but I think women, it's just as important, if not more, for them to understand jiu-jitsu if possible. You know, do you ever tailor that conversation differently, trying to bring them into the sport?
I mean, I tailor the conversation differently to, I would say, more experience levels than gender, right? Like, you know, like I'll have classes with literally day one people all the way up to black belts in it.
Yeah.
So I have to find a way to give everybody something they need / want, you know, and or I have MMA fighters in, or I have just hobbyists, or I have competitors. So I'm always trying to throw different angles and different looks at the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, but no, I mean, you know, I taught my little sister jiu-jitsu. You know, she's a purple belt now. She's a super badass. You know, it is more important for women, straight up. You know, but really, you know, everyone needs that confidence.
Absolutely.
Everyone needs the health and the lessons and stuff like that. So yeah, I would say more about, again, experience levels or what you're in it for, whether it be self-defense or sport jiu-jitsu or MMA or, you know, fun.
From your perspective, what's maybe the number one question you get when someone walks through that door when they're curious about jiu-jitsu?
How long is it going to take me to get my blue belt? Yeah, I don't know. You know, look, what I tell people usually is that if you spend 1 year with me, one consistent year with me, this is actually what I do tell girls. You know, I'll say you spend one consistent year training, no untrained dude will be able to pick you up and take you somewhere. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's going to take a year of consistent work. Now again, that's different than a trained guy attacking you or something like that. But like the untrained person, man, like a year of jiu-jitsu is light years ahead of the average person walking around on the street. You know? So that's kind of like the basic thing I tell people is like, you'll at least be able to get away from just about anybody with a year of training.
Cool.
Yeah.
And that's a great transition right into, okay, let's say they're training, right? They made it past that first year, right? Cool, they like jiu-jitsu. But we know people get their blue belt and you may never see them again. What are maybe some of the reasons you're seeing that, and how people have overcome that have continued to stay along the path of jiu-jitsu?
Well, the people that quit after their blue belt, I think that for one, you know, they feel proficient enough or whatever. They're like, oh, I get it now, which is actually a sign that you don't get it.
Yeah.
Right? So, and again, those are the people that are like in it for like specific goals or, you know, rank. Whereas other people are like, yo, I'm just gonna do this because I love it forever.
Right.
Like those are the people that stick. That's it. Not the people who are ultimately trying to get something out of it, as far as an objective kind of, you know, reward, I guess. As opposed to people are like, I just love it. I just love it. I'm always gonna do it. I don't care if you never rank me. I don't care. Those are the people that get better way quicker.
Right.
You know?
That's
So
fair.
it's trying to reach a goal that makes you quit, you know, because as soon as you fulfill that goal, you're like, well, what's the next goal?
Right.
You know, and plus when you get your blue belt, that's when you're like, holy shit, it took me that long to get my blue belt. Purple, brown, black, it breaks them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they can't handle the idea of it.
Do you think there's a way we as a jiu-jitsu community can crush that blue belt blues? Like, hey, like what is that gap that we need to build that bridge for, you know, to kind of keep people on the mats for longer? Maybe it's purple belt, they get out of here, but at least it's 3 more years and that makes the world a better place.
It does, hopefully, you know. Man, that's a really good question. I think it might be how we kind of frame what a blue belt means. You know, like some people might think a blue belt means they're proficient, but here's what I say. A white belt, you're just learning how to learn. A blue belt, now it's time to learn.
Right.
So people are like, oh, I know jiu-jitsu now. It's like, no, now you're ready to start learning jiu-jitsu. You know, and then purple belt, that's when you really solidify. You know, if you be, you know, like a purple belt, like to an untrained person, you can't tell the difference between a purple belt and a black belt. Right. Ultimately, when you're rolling with them.
Correct.
You know? So yeah, if someone was gonna quit, I'd at least want them to get their purple belt. I would feel okay about them walking around in life after that, as far as safety and just, you know, that sort of like awareness and whatnot. But again, I think it's just making people understand that, you know, you can't conquer jiu-jitsu.
Right.
You know, there's no beating it. So.
Man, that's a great answer, actually, because I think if we change what the definition of having a blue belt means, or in a sense, which, I mean, you guys, I believe, do rank here at 10th Planet, right? You still get them, but it's not an everyday thing. You're not seeing the belts all the time like in normal gi jiu-jitsu. So in an absence of rank structure, maybe is the solution to keeping people on.
Well, in wrestling, there's no ranks.
Right.
It's accolades.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so you're going to tell me some D1 All-American wrestler is a white belt? You know, like, it's not really how it works, sort of. Yeah, sure, in jiu-jitsu terms, but like, you know, everyone's just different. You know, you got the 40-year-old hobbyist, and then you got the kid who's been wrestling his whole life. You know, you can't judge anybody the same.
Yeah, well, and it's cool because I actually think I heard Jocko and Echo talking about this. One day, the ideal thing would be to have grappling, like the sport of grappling. It's judo, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, all mixed into one thing, you know, and maybe that's the way. Hey, we get rid of that.
That's how I look at my jiu-jitsu. You know, like, in fact, you know, I call it jiu-jitsu because I'm part of 10th Planet, and which is like, you know, it's been such a huge blessing in my life. It's given me everything that I have, you know. But I do martial arts.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, because I'm even talking about, you know, I can't remember who said it. Maybe it was Chris Howder or something. But, you know, think street, train sport, practice art.
Yes.
You know, so I'm thinking about like getting bit or eye poked or whatever else. I'm also thinking about just sport jiu-jitsu. I'm also thinking about the beauty of it. Can we make it beautiful as well as effective and deadly?
Yeah.
You know?
Funny story for you really quick. I got an altercation at Green Lake. Someone had randomly attacked someone, and I was with my mom walking the lake, and I had to go pin the guy, stop it. Well, I get in full mount position, you know, tackle him, get him out, and I got nice and tight because I think I protected myself. Well, he bites my cheek.
Oh, get the
dude.
Damn.
Yeah, and in that moment, I'm saying, oh, this is not sport jiu-jitsu. I had that flash, right, that moment. So I crossface frame, strike, okay, gift wrap.
He didn't bite a chunk, did he?
No. I mean, he barely pierced the skin, but didn't pull it off, luckily.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, but it was a real life situation that I had to deal with. And I thought in that moment, like, oh, there's levels. I was not thinking street, right? I was thinking, maybe arrogantly enough, hey, I've been trained for 9 years at the time. I'm gonna go tackle this guy and handle business, but I also didn't have that street mindset in that moment. So yeah, being bit is a very real thing. So it changes how you grapple.
I think Bruce Lee said something to the effect of, don't fear the man who can beat you, fear the man who will bite off your nose.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It was real.
Like, hot damn, dude. Yeah.
So you've been coaching for a while now. Have you been coaching since maybe you made that transition into 10th Planet?
Yeah, I've been coaching before I was even ranked in jiu-jitsu, you know, because in my little town, you know, I had 10 submissions out of those 21 MMA fights. And that was just from like figuring it out.
Yeah.
So in my little town, I started teaching jiu-jitsu, and that was actually right when I started like studying 10th Planet. So I've actually been teaching. I've been a black belt now for 8 years, but I've been teaching jiu-jitsu for like 11. You know.
Wow.
So
that's really cool.
And I think that's another reason I've gotten as far as I have is because I mean, no one's learning more than me while I'm teaching.
Right.
You know, I'm learning more than all my students.
Yep.
So.
No, it's great, and I can speak that today because, like you had mentioned earlier, the way you progress the moves. Hey, we're starting off like even the throws, right? We're starting standing. Hey, we can slow it down in a manageable piece. So, hey, the everyday person can come in and learn a throw for the first time today. And then the advanced person, you show that next phase of that. Hey, you're actually hopping in and throwing very cleanly, right? Which again, you've built a very beautiful facility here. This is gorgeous. As a coach now in your career, what are you seeing that you believe is good on the mat or bad, whether it's attitude, culture, technique-wise? What are some things as a coach that you're kind of recognizing at this stage in your career?
Man, I mean, jiu-jitsu is so much different than how it used to be. You know, like I said before, my first fight, there was no YouTube, there's no social media. One thing that everything's a double-edged sword, I suppose. Everything is ultimately neutral. It's how you use it that makes it good or bad, right? So a question I ask a lot is how many people would still be doing jiu-jitsu if it wasn't cool? If you weren't getting followers, if you weren't getting, you know, recognition, you know, I think a lot less, but it's a cool thing to do now. And so that kind of just, I guess I'm just kind of an old man in the game, you know, nowadays, but like, yeah, it's like, where's the purity of intention? And, you know, again, if no one ever knew you did jiu-jitsu, would you still do it?
Yeah.
I fucking would. I did.
Correct.
You know, I was doing that long before anyone even knew about it because I just loved it. And it was like, you know, it called to me and it made me feel good, you know. But at the same time, that social media is great for business. It is great for spreading the gospel of jiu-jitsu, let's call it.
It's us right now.
It's super important.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's crazy important.
Yeah.
But, you know, we can't let the gratification of attention kind of murky the waters a little bit.
No,
you know?
that's a great point. How do you specifically manage culture in your gym? You know, because you had 40 people in here tonight, maybe more. As a coach, as a business owner, how has that been for you?
Man, it's been interesting, you know, because again, I've been running a school, I mean, basically for like 11 years, you know, in some capacity. And, you know, you get your idiots coming through from time to time.
Yeah.
And honestly, it all starts with me, right? I'm the leader of the school, so my energy dictates how the rest of the people are going to be. And so, you know, energy attracts like energy. And so I honestly just get a lot of chill, cool people in here.
Yeah.
And then occasionally when some idiot comes in, honestly, they just don't last long. They just don't, because they usually are just getting their ass kicked by a bunch of really nice people. You know, and that fucks with them.
It does.
You know, and they're like, wait, why is everyone so nice? And why am I so angry? I can't be here. You know what I mean? It's funny how it pushes out that kind of energy, or it like brings them in, and then all of a sudden they're maybe a happier, nicer, cooler, whatever person, you know? So, you know, and again, like, I just nip things in the bud, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I've had to tell people, hey, you just can't train here anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and it sucks, and I hate doing that, but like, honestly, I got to look out for me. I got to look out for my students. I got to look out for the school. So I just don't put up with bullshit.
No, I dig that.
I handle it right away.
Yeah,
you know?
it's very necessary.
And I do it really kindly, you know, but I'm also like very straightforward. Like, I don't bullshit people.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's important. And people they may not fit in here, but they may fit in at other gyms.
Yeah.
And which I, you know, tell people listening, if you're trying jiu-jitsu for the first time, try multiple schools. You never know where you're going to fit in with that culture you're describing. Yeah. Everyone has their different personality, 100%. You know.
And my way is not the right way. It's just my way.
It's just your way. Yes.
You know what I mean? So I can't tell anyone, you know, what's right or what's wrong. You know, it's just
on a day that maybe you're feeling off, where you're not feeling that your energy's at its top to be
happens
on
all the time.
Yeah. How do you personally manage that or shield that? What are some techniques maybe you use?
You know, I mean, honestly, like, I guess as cliche as it maybe sounds, just gratitude.
Yeah.
Like just being grateful for what I have, that changes my mentality probably the quickest, you know? And another thing is to, first of all, recognize that I'm in that negative state of mind, and then bring it back to like fun. You know, it's like, once it becomes work, that's a sign to me that something's wrong. Okay. It shouldn't be work. It should be fun.
Yeah.
It should be cool. Like, but again, we're like brainwashed in this society to think that you just got to be just grinding and miserable and pushing. It's like, wait, what? Maybe life was supposed to be enjoyable and fun and flow, you know? Now, that doesn't mean that you don't work hard, because honestly, like, think of any time you've been playing a sport where you're having a blast, you're working crazy hard, but you don't consider it work. You know, like, it's just it's a mental shift of, you know, why you're doing it, you know, presence and awareness and all that.
And I mean, to the point of you twisting me up into knots earlier, it's the most fun I've had all week, you know, and that's also something trying to explain to people who are new coming into the world of jiu-jitsu. Like, it's not necessarily the grind of it being painful or uncomfortable. It's like, but you realize, like, you can have fun. Like, you're an adult wrestling around in a padded room. Like, how is that not fun?
Straight up. Yeah, that's right.
And then out of curiosity, because I felt it, right? But how would you describe specifically what your game in jiu-jitsu is?
I don't have a game. My game is no game.
Okay.
I feel like, you know, like, my game changes based on whoever I'm going against. You know, like, you know, smaller, faster guys, I got to do one thing. Bigger, stronger guys, I got to do something else. I don't feel very pigeonholed in any type of game at all. Like, I can wrestle. I'll choke you, I'll leg lock you, I'll arm bar you. Like, there's basically nothing I don't do.
Yeah.
I just take what there is instead of really try to force what there isn't.
No, that totally makes sense. Do you say that you may have a favorite move?
I mean, there are moves that like I think are just more fun than others.
Yeah.
You know, for sure. Like
maybe let's phrase it 2 ways. A favorite move that you like watching, and that's a cool move, and maybe your favorite go-to specific.
Yeah, I mean, I love arm drags. I just love arm drags. Like,
okay.
One thing I like about arm drags is you can be in a bar, someone asks you what jiu-jitsu is, then they do karate hands, and you're like, no, look, put your hand on my shoulder, and you do a little arm drag. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's a super easy way to show someone what jiu-jitsu is. I've done it lots and lots of times in competition at the highest level that I've competed at.
Yep.
It's super direct, and man, it's just badass, you know. But of course, I mean, dude, it's also beautiful to me.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like rolling to leg locks, and like I love big judo throws. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, man, I just love it. I really can't even pick because it's all so.
The art of jiu-jitsu is full
and the thing is,
encompassing.
like, man, I say. It might sound stupid to some, but I say jiu-jitsu is one move, you know? And it's like this, that, you know, you just have a car. But then you take the car apart and you see all the car. It's not just one thing, it's made of a bunch of different little things.
Yeah.
So you start with one whole thing, you break it apart, you see all the different things, but then you put it all back together and you just see it's a car again. I mean, that's jiu-jitsu to me.
Yeah.
It's like, so you see jiu-jitsu, then you learn all the different moves, but then you realize that all the moves form one thing, and with missing even one of those moves, the car doesn't function, you know. So I just see them all just so connected that one couldn't exist without the other.
I like that. That's such a great way to describe jiu-jitsu, right? Because and I think Bruce Lee had said, hey, when you first start off, a punch is a punch, and then later on, it's super complicated, and your torque and everything evolved, and then you get that stage again where it's just a punch. So it's a very similar, but that's a great way to phrase it. So again, back to that simplicity mindset. Hey, if you just wrap your leg around someone and lock your legs, that's a triangle, and you have it done. Yeah. So I know you're self-taught for the most part, right?
I would say I'm legitimately like 85% self-trained.
Right. And so that's been a long progression. When was the last maybe eureka moment you had on the mat where it's like, ooh, I discovered something that no one had previously shown me before?
I mean, I say it happens to me all the time. It's crazy. I mean, I lay in bed and think of stuff that I'm like, well, I've never done that before. I'm gonna try that. I've never seen that before, you know? Now, whatever sticks might be a different story, you know, but like even recently, like I finally started hitting these double overhook throws that my whole life I've never been able to do very well. But now I can launch everybody with them. Cool. And so even though I didn't create that by any means, but it did click, something new clicked that hadn't clicked before, and that feeling is so addictive right there.
I love that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it wasn't a personal trainer saying, hey, if you pivot your hips like this and throw, you found it on your own and it clicked. Yeah. That's a beautiful moment.
It feels
I
good.
love that.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What if you could change something about maybe the overall culture of jiu-jitsu, right? Because there's, again, with the social media aspect, maybe the Pacific Northwest culture. I mean, you've been around it for so long. What would be maybe that one go-to thing that you would change about jiu-jitsu as a whole?
I feel like I have an answer to that question. You know, I don't know. I feel like Gordon Ryan a while ago said something about how everyone says, you know, everyone says jiu-jitsu is about respect. He goes, blah, blah, blah. Jiu-jitsu was Brazilians beating the shit out of each other back in the day. And I'm like, no, you know, he made it about not respect. I think the exact opposite. Okay. I really do. It's like, it's all about respect, you know? It's all about respecting your opponent, respecting even your enemy. You know what I mean? Like, as far as like warfare goes, man, if you don't respect your enemy, they're gonna get you, you know?
Yeah.
So just like, it's hard to say like to have no ego. That's basically impossible because, I mean, to try to kill your ego is incredibly egoic. You know what I mean? So
the ultimate catch-22.
It is, dude. You know? So it's just like, okay, first of all, to realize that, okay, we're all a bunch of egoic pricks at our, you know, at this level of expression or whatever. But again, if it's just like, here's a big thing to me is comparison, right? Everyone's just trying to compare to each other, and I get it, man. It's like, it's such a human nature thing to want to compete and want to be better and want to do this and that. But you know, seriously, like, just be better than yourself. Just be better than you were. I heard it called runging, like runging on a ladder, right? Like, oh, if I'm in a certain place, that means someone is above me, and that means someone's below me. That's not true. We're all even. You know what I mean? And so we need to like break that mentality of who's better, who's smarter, who's this, who's that. It's like, dude, it's all completely subjective, especially when you think about like art. Everyone loves a different artist. Some people think that to be the best artist, you need to be able to do photorealism. But then you look at Salvador Dali or Picasso, and you're like, how are those guys not the greatest too? You know, and so it's like, it's just up to you who's best, and there is no such thing as best. It doesn't exist. You know, there's just your highest potential individually, but that's got nothing to do with anybody else. You know, so really it's just about learning about yourself. And not trying to show everybody how awesome you are. You know? In fact, the best way to show someone how awesome you are is just be yourself. You know, but when you have to show someone that you're cool, that's obviously not cool, right? You know, it's like it's like fake. If you're trying to be cool, it means you aren't. It's just like, dude, everyone just chill out, have fun, work hard, don't be a dick. We just don't have to be. Now, I also get that a lot of people are selling fights and, you know, whatever.
The salesy aspect of martial
arts. But that's just not me, you know? And again, if that's your thing, then cool. But like, I just like, you know, I just like building everybody up too. You know?
No, and I felt that tonight, which was a wonderful feeling. First time being, you know, we have a mutual friend, a good connection. But first time being here at this gym, it was a great atmosphere. And the moment you walked on the mats, right, that was a positive energy to be felt, you know. That was wonderful. You mentioned, hey, there are people out there promoting fights. Do we have anything that we get to look forward to seeing you competing again?
March 13th, EBI 19, the Return of Ebi. It's been 4 years since the last EBI.
Oh, cool.
You know, they've been doing CJJ for a while. I did 4 of those, but now it's just back to EBI. I'm really excited about that. I mean, EBI is my favorite tournament, you know, probably because it's like where I came up, and it's also Eddie Bravo's, of course. But man, it's just so much fun, you know. And then so that's March 13th. And March 26th, I should be competing in Polaris again in England, and then the very next weekend, ADCC trials. So I got in 4 weeks 3 very high level tournaments.
Man, I'll be rooting for you. It's been very exciting. With that being said, you're still running a school, right? Do you change anything when you're preparing for competition, whether it's mindset or the style in which you train, and how do you balance those?
Yeah, I mean, usually like leading up to a tournament, I'll just straight up tell my class, I'm like, hey guys, we're gonna focus a little bit more on me right now. You know, I'm gonna teach a little bit less. And what I do teach, it's basically just me reviewing my go-to movements and things like that. You know, so it just kind of comes down to, doing what I plan on hitting in competition. You know, that's what I really just start to focus on. Or, you know, like even tonight we taught the lockdown, which has been a minute since I taught the lockdown, but like it's something I would like to review before I go into competition because I use it a lot. You know, it works really, really well. So just a lot of review and, you know, definitely visualization. You know, like I was actually, what I've been doing lately is imagining, I don't know why I'm doing this, but imagine a lion from hell. That I'm gonna fight a lion from hell, and I'm gonna beat this lion's ass, you know? And so, like, imagining like the most terrifying thing I kind of can, I guess, you know, some demon cat, and taking its back and choking it or whatever, you know? Like I just, if I can imagine fighting the scariest thing and winning, then like, what's some guy how's he gonna scare me? You know what I mean? So I just try to think of the worst case scenario and then run right towards it.
You know, that's wonderful. Like, you meet that to your head on, right? The dragons or demons aren't never as scary as once you actually face them.
That's right.
That's great. One thing I'm curious about, because of how high level of a jiu-jitsu practitioner you are, it's probably not every day in your own gym you're getting smashed. You know what I mean? So how do you maybe up that level of competition or energy that you need while, you know, for prepping for competition?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've actually been preparing for every competition I've ever prepared for. I've basically prepared with white, blue, purple belts. You know what I mean? Now what I do instead of needing tougher partners is I'll take my level down, right? So I will do less of I let them beat on me a little bit. I practice my defense against them, or again, instead of just whooping their ass, I kind of I try to raise them up by lowering myself down so that it feels like I'm rolling against a black belt, even though I'm not necessarily, you know? And it's just something I've always had to do, you know? And it's always worked pretty well for me. Yeah, I don't know, man. I've never really had black belts to train with, like on a consistent level. You know, I got Chaz and some guys that come through, but like, it's rare. I don't get to roll with black belts every day. I just don't, you know? And so, yeah, again, I've just learned how to have blue and purple belts, even white belts, give me what I need, you know? Like, I don't need someone better. I just need someone. And then I can work with that.
I like that. It's a very inspiring story because you did it, right? Without help, you know? So someone may be watching this one day and say, wow, there's this thing, regardless of whether it's jiu-jitsu, there's this thing I want to do, I can figure it out because you did it. You know what I mean? Which is awesome.
I mean, I'm learning the guitar right now. And everything I do, I'm self-taught, like everything, you know? Now, don't get me wrong, it's not like I can just come up with it. I watch videos, you know, but I don't have someone holding my hand. You know, I don't have someone guiding me along or anything. But like, if you really want something, you'll do it. And if you don't get the thing you really want, it means you didn't really want it. Right? Like people are like, I want to live on a tropical island. I'm like, no, if you did, you would live on that island. You actually want to do what you're doing a little bit more than you want to live on that island. Now, the moment you want to live on the island more than you want to work your bullshit job, then you'll do that. You know, so it's just about being real with yourself, you know?
No, I really like that, which is, you just mentioned you're learning to play the guitar. So outside of jiu-jitsu, what do you do that's good for the soul?
I mean, dude, martial arts, like just, I mean, guitar, you know, it's feeling really, really good and fun and all that. But like, dude, I mean, I'm throwing knives and doing archery and like I do all kinds of weapons, nunchucks, sword, rope dart. Like there's nearly no weapon I don't do, you know? You know, because again, like throwing knives teaches me jiu-jitsu. Ultimately, I mean, everything teaches me jiu-jitsu. Even the guitar teaches me jiu-jitsu. Rather, jiu-jitsu is also helping me learn the guitar because it's about going, you know, everyone wants to rush their progress along. You just can't do that. Just take your time, do the basics over and over and over again, you know, and then it all kind of comes together one day, you know. So, yeah, I'm always dabbling in some sort of martial art one way or another. I can't even get away from it.
No, that's great, man. I love that. You mentioned, you had a quote earlier that I wrote down, and I want to say it on camera, or have you say it properly, because I think it kind of leads into that. It was something along the lines of nothing that always works, and nothing that never works. Can you explain that?
Yeah, there's nothing that works every time, and there's nothing that never works, right? Like, think specifically of a move. Even rear naked chokes, dude. Like, people, like, that's like the highest percentage submission there is. Sometimes they don't work. Sometimes guys get out of them. Now, and then you got these crazy, weird, abstract moves that, like, sure, they're not high percentage, but even if they work one time, I'll use them, you know? I do not disregard anything. You know, I don't ever say anything's ultimately right or ultimately wrong. It's all completely situational, you know? So never, if you see someone do a move and you're like, that's stupid, it won't work, well, you're missing out. It might work even one time, and that's good enough for me. You know, granted, the moves that work more often, they're great, but sometimes even those ones don't work. So,
no, you know, it's funny because you had said it. I ran to my backpack, grabbed my notebook, and I think the reason it clicked for me was people maybe who have not tried jiu-jitsu or went for that thing that is good for the soul in whatever aspect of life are stuck in the inverse of that, because that excuse where you're sitting there thinking, well, it's not going to always work, and not realizing, well, if you never do it, it's not going to work anyway. You know, so it's such a good reminder.
There's nothing that will always work.
Like,
exactly. Silly, you know?
But if you do nothing, it won't ever work. So I love that. It stuck out with me. That stuck out with me really good. Any final thoughts closing out, man?
No, man, just thank you for being here, man. It was cool to roll with you and just, you know, be a part of the project you're working on, man, because jiu-jitsu is good for the soul. And, you know, but to kind of end with that idea also is that people think that jiu-jitsu makes you a better person. It can, but someone put it basically like this: if your morals don't raise at the same level of your power, you become a villain.
Interesting.
You know, so the stronger you get, if you're not mindful of becoming an actual, like, more kind, compassionate human, you'll become a bad guy.
Wow.
You'll become a tyrant. You'll become a bully. You know, so again, like, the more powerful you become, the more you need to be aware of how you're treating people and things like that. Otherwise, it's all going to be upside down. So jiu-jitsu can make you a better person if you're aware and you raise the moral standard with that power.
That's beautiful. That's a great way to end it, man. Thank you so much. Again, I really appreciate it. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks. If you've been listening along this whole time, I super appreciate you guys and hope you got something out of that interview with Nate. Again, I was super stoked on it. I feel like in this interview, I really started to find my groove. Me and Nate's energies connected really well on the mat during training, and then during the discussion, I feel like we were vibing. So I hope you guys felt that and then got something out of it as well. Again, just one quick reminder, an awesome way to support me along this journey so I can keep bringing you guys, you know, this awesome content that I think I'm doing and putting out there for you guys. Go to jockofuel.com and you'll get 10% off at checkout on everything using the code GOODFORTHESOUL, as well as Origin USA. So on that, gi, rash guard, pants, you know, all the cool gear that you need for grappling and jiu-jitsu. That's originusa.com. At checkout, use the code GOODFORTHESOUL. Thanks, guys.